Hey everyone, welcome to Fake Walk with Justin Season 2, Episode 1. On this episode, I'll be focusing on the pedestrian struggle. I would like to point out that this episode is mostly based on my personal experience navigating Nairobi city. Nairobi is apparently the city in the sun, something that pedestrians understand so well from all the sunburns we get in January. It's the only capital in the world with a national park, and this may soon change. Thanks, Balala. A hub of East Africa and expatriates mostly, but one thing this hub does not cater to is pedestrians. When you walk in Nairobi's CBD streets, you're greeted by vendors, constructors, gel nail beauticians, conductors, and most importantly, motorists. Most pedestrians have to share walkways and curb space with portable businesses, kiosks, boda operators who won't let them be, and people on Kenyatta Avenue. Just relax. You know, your cabro is working great for you, so you can feel free not to listen to this part. I'm talking mostly about everyone else elsewhere. Even Kilimani people, you know you're not exempt. Pedestrians are really going with the Lord, you know, when it comes to navigating this city. On one occasion, it once took me 20 minutes to cross Mombasa Road because the highway has close to zero pedestrian crossing bridges. I took my sweet time because I had to decide which was more important, keeping my internship or making it to the other side alive. I would like to tell you I kept the internship, but I got there at 11. I would like to maintain also in this moment in time that Mombasa Road is the ghetto of Nairobi highways. You can come fight me, but I'm pretty sure you'll get stuck on the other side of the road, and by the time you get to me, your anger will have faded. The pedestrian struggle in Nairobi is not by mistake, it's actually by design. Most Kenyan cities have poorly constructed walkways with close to no footbridges and overall zero care for pedestrians. Ironically, walking, cycling, and public transportation are a big mode of transport in Kenya. A WHO report says that at least 3,000 to 13,000 Kenyans have lost their lives in road traffic crashes every year. Most of them are vulnerable road users, and it's usually pedestrians, motorcyclists, and bikelists that get hit the most. Last week on my way home, the matatu I was in hit someone at a roundabout in Koja. I hope that lady is doing okay because I remember the conductors, two of them who were in that matatu, literally fled the scene after that happened. The lady was lying on the road and I could not even help her for fear of getting knocked myself. I have no first aid knowledge, let's start there, and my mind immediately went to me getting robbed if I tried to be a superhero. I was also worried that other motorists with no regard for what just happened will run me over, and Koja is a very busy roundabout, so you know what I was talking about. If you're a pedestrian, of course. If you're a motorist, I don't know if you really get this struggle. You're probably the one who ran that lady over. So Koja roundabout is a very busy intersection with close to zero markings for zebra crossings. So if a cop is not standing in the middle of the road awkwardly making try me eye contact with matatu drivers, chances are you might not make it to the other side. According to the NTSA, the number of crashes due to walking or standing on the road jumped by 100% to 40 cases between January and October in 2019 alone. This data rekindled a debate on pedestrian behavior and the safety on the roads, but you have to remember there are no footbridges. 4 footbridges serving Mombasa Road and the Nairobi Expressway are set to be brought down, or they already have. These footbridges were constructed at the cost of 380 million Kenyan shillings. Given Kenya's 2 billion corruption expenses, this isn't much. I know you're wondering when these footbridges are gonna be replaced. Well, that's information I couldn't find. Maybe I failed you. Maybe this city doesn't want you here. Fun fact about the Nairobi Expressway: while you may or may not be getting those footbridges reinstalled, a private company funding that construction will operate the road for 27 years to recoup the funds spent in the project before ceding it to the state. Also, do you guys remember Sonko's fitness program? That experiment by Nairobi County officials that had people walking to town because matatus were not allowed to access the CBD? Well, it painted a picture of how pedestrians are not really prioritized. People had to share walk space with cars, risking being run over by impatient motorists. Like Max. In downtown Nairobi, a footbridge swayed under the weight of countless pedestrians looking to cross between roads. The fact that this infrastructure was not built for this kind of commute is scary. I think all pedestrians should forcefully occupy one lane on each road, and maybe they could take us seriously. Nairobi seems to be the city struggling with most pedestrian walkways, but other counties are a bit different. In Mombasa and Kakamega, pedestrians have great paved walkways for the most part, which is something Nairobi could learn from. Only 3% of Mombasa's residents and visitors use personal cars to travel throughout the city, whereas almost 45% of them walk as a primary form of transportation, and over a third, that is 37%, rely on public transportation. To improve the conditions for roughly 700,000 pedestrians in Mombasa, the Department of Transportation has completed 9 kilometers of wide footpaths on 5 streets in Mombasa, including Moi Avenue, one of the major corridors anticipated to be one of the future BRT systems. Kenyans live right on the equator, and the sun hits different like scissor. Although Mombasa is doing well for pedestrians, the recently completed floating bridge between the island and Likoni has no shade protection whatsoever for commuters from the scorching sun. Mombasa residents often have to contend with painful sun exposure, something that the ferry services use to shield them from. Pedestrian design is key considering daily weather conditions and their overall health and safety. Being in the capital city and suffering is so shameful. The Nairobi Metropolitan Services have promised to build walkways and cycling lanes around the CBD and also in slum areas. While they have not given a definite timeline on this, because county government, it's great that they're doing this. However, I hate that pedestrians are always attended to like an afterthought. Pedestrians have to contend with vendors, and this encroachment usually ends up endangering pedestrian lives. In some instances, certain cartels have taken over footbridges and have solely made them for trading places where pedestrians can't even cross. City residents also have to constantly contend with motorists on zebra crossings because they don't stop to allow people to even cross. You can easily get run over. Even estates have zero room for pedestrians, joggers, cyclists, and they have to share the same path. Well, these are everyday pedestrian struggles. When it rains, the chaos is even worse. Pedestrian walkways which are not properly constructed usually flood with rain and sewage. Matatus sometimes almost run people over because the dedicated stages are not clearly marked. I have a name for this chaos. It's called Candy Crush. There's an MP who used a matatu recently and someone thought this was newsworthy. We know this person is just trying to earn re-election points. They will never have to jump out of a moving vehicle because they wanted to alight at a place that was not an actual stage and needed to be held by vendors in that area so as not to fall on the road. During this whole piece, I didn't even get the opportunity to delve deeper into accessibility. People living with disabilities have an even harder time because not all crossing bridges have ramps, not all matatus are wheelchair accessible, and not all drivers are patient enough to wait for people to get out of a matatu before they speed off. However, in this chaos that is the capital city, there are people doing the Lord's pedestrian work, or as I'd like to call it, a day in the life of Jesus. Shout out to Mathri Route for helping passengers with their daily commute. Their constant updates on their social media platforms help a lot of people living here. So, to discuss the pedestrian struggle with me, I have a motorist and pedestrian, the amazing Maxi. So Max.
Hey, what's up?
Let's get right into it. First of all, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
That was kind of rude. Thank you for joining me on Facebook. So I'm gonna ask, how does it feel to be alive every single day when you get home after being a pedestrian in Nairobi?
Oh shit. Well, it mostly feels like being in a video game, right? So it's like a game. Every day when you leave the house, you don't know. You could be electrocuted. Like recently, I saw this video of there was a bridge that was being made, and some guy was welding, right? And people were passing under like the bridge.
Were you one of those people?
No, fortunately not.
So lucky. Just to wrap this up, like how does it feel to be a motorist who almost always knocks over passengers? I just need to know.
Yo, that's what kind of reputation? Justine, not in front of the guests. Come on.
No, they need to know the kind of driver you are. You know, do you stop at lights? Do you let people cross? Do you let pregnant ladies stand in the middle of the road for 5 minutes? Like, what do you do? I want to know what kind of motorist you are.
Okay, well, most certainly being a motorist and a pedestrian, they both have their perks, right? So when you're a pedestrian, and you're walking, you're always like, this driver is not going to hit me, right? And when you're a driver, you're always like, why are you as a pedestrian in front of the road? So the duality of your pedestrian motorist is hard.
It's
extremely difficult.
So you guys, as you've heard from Maxi, she is a terrible driver but a great pedestrian, and I'm hoping she'll knock none of you over. That's what I got from this conversation. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Stay tuned for more on season 2 and stay woke.